Good evening from Lagos, everyone. I am Nifemi Oguntoye, and this is Beyond 100 Days. You can join the conversation right now on X using hashtag Beyond 100 Days. Remember to tag at TVC News On. Ahead the August 1st protest, the federal government has again appealed to Nigerians to shun the planned protest scheduled for tomorrow in the interest of peace in the country. Secretary to Government of the Federation, George Akume, and some key ministers held a press conference on government's efforts to make life better for Nigerians. The SGF says government recognizes the people's freedom to protest, but strongly advises against vandalism and violence. He also mentioned that Nigerians must remain vigilant and avoid vandalism at all costs.
The ongoing economic hardships, they are improving anyway. Would abate very soon, and we shall all enjoy endless prosperity. We therefore appeal to Nigerians of whatever persuasion, belief, demography, gender, and status to shun cause for protests against hunger by prioritizing peace and progress. For avoidance of doubts, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR recognizes the right to peaceful protest, but circumspection and vigilance should be our watchwords.
The provision of the Nigerian Students' Loan Scheme has a provision to cover 2 million students. Already, disbursements have started, and as at last week, NEL Fund has received application in excess of 120,000 and is also ongoing. Now, the message of Mr. President is that there is no child that has the requisite qualification and that has the desire to go to school that will be left out simply because his parent or guardian is unable to pay for his fees.
And back here in Lagos, the Rapid Response Squad and the Lagos State Task Force took to different areas of the state in a show of force. Commander of RRS, CSP Shola Jejeloye, and Lagos State Environmental Sanitation and Special Offences Unit Captain Chairman, CSP Adetaya Akirele, said the Joint Visibility Patrol and drilling of its personnel is in readiness for any emergency in the state. The teams patrolled Ikeja, Old Tollgate, Oshodi, Ojota, Iyanoworo, Third Mainland Bridge, VI, Ikoyi, Lekki, and other parts of the state. They have also assured residents that there is no cause for alarm and they can go about their businesses without fear. Well, with warnings of potential violence and calls for restraint, the question on everyone's lips is, what's the way forward? Joining me live from our Abuja studio is the 2023 Kogi State governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Murtala Ajaka. Mr. Ajaka, good to see you. Thank you for joining us on the program again.
Thank you, Mr. Nifem.
Well, I see that you have joined voices with those calling on organizers of this protest to exercise restraint and patience. How do you reconcile this call with Nigerians who say, you know what, we have been patient for decades only to see our living condition get worse?
There is no doubt that there's hunger in the land. There's no doubt about that. And the only way to solve the problem is not by protest. But it is the right of Nigerians to protest. But the fear of going for this protest is the backlash that might come out of it. The experience of the NSAS is still very fresh in our mind. And if you take your mind back to what is happening in Kenya, the government seems to have lost control of security. So everybody is angry in the country, you know, and it is their right to protest. But let us sit down and discuss. There's a lot of things that led to where we are today. Like I stated in my statement, you see, most of the government institutions that are charged with the responsibility of creating wealth are the problem of Nigeria. E.g., if you go through the book of NNPC in the last 3 decades, you know that the problem of this country come mainly from that Department of Government. So what our people need to do now is to focus our attention on this institution of government that are supposed to create wealth, that are not doing what they are supposed to do. But be that as it is now, this protest, of course, if we must continue, it should be guided so that it will not get out of hand.
Let's talk about the narrative that we've heard from this government. There are those who have said advising citizens to exercise patience is being dismissive of their struggles and is perceived as being insensitive to the urgent needs and frustrations of everyday Nigerians. What do you make of that school of thought?
Come again.
I'm asking that there are those who would say asking Nigerians not to protest is being dismissive of their, their struggles and their frustrations at this time, and is also being perceived as being insensitive to their urgent needs.
Yes, you see, I'm one of those that said we should not go for this protest. But I've been able to contact some of the civil society leaders that I know across the country. It's a general consensus that they have to go on this protest. So what we need to do as a people and as leaders is to ensure we guide this process so that it will not get this protest so that it will not get out of hand. Like I said, the problem of Nigeria does not just lie with the president. Our institutions are a problem. And we should find a way as political leaders, political actors, to see how we can take a look at our laws, to see how we can strengthen this department, institution of government, so that for them to perform what they are supposed to do for the state. Like what is happening in the Southeast today. There is nobody in the Southeast that is safe. You know why? Because of the agitation of the IPOB. The agitation of the IPOB to me is not just about the sovereignty of Biafra. It's about youth unemployment. And Mr. Nnamdi Kanu find a way into this thing and cashing on that. And since the government have not been able to quell this crisis, for us to have peace in that part of the country, as a new government, Mr. President should call on the IPOB leadership again to have a discussion with them so that we can find a way forward from there.
So part of what you said in your press release, Mr. Ajaka, you mentioned that protests often end in violence and destruction of property. I'm wondering if that is a flaw in protesting itself or in the ability of government to provide adequate security to protesters and address the grievances.
It is not about the protest. It's the inability of government to provide security for the protesters. In most cases, most protests turn violent because of the action of the security personnel. That's the issue.
Okay, I hear you clearly. And how confident are you that government has learnt its lesson? You talked about Kenya. A lot of people are also making reference to the NSAS protest in 2020. Do you think that this administration is paying attention and is going to act differently starting tomorrow?
From what has been going on for the past 72 hours, it is clear that the government is prepared to manage the situation well. I have absolute confidence in the leadership of Mr. President that they're able to manage the situation. But again, the IG should caution his men well. They should not go to the field and become overzealous. Because those protesting are angry Nigerians. They are angry because they are hungry. And the hungry man, they say, is an angry person. So let's find a way to guide this and then identify the leadership. Like one of the SCN has come out to be the legal representative of the protesters. And there's Chief Femi Falana there. So government should engage these people so that they'll all be guided. Because if we allow this protest to go on the way it's been planned, with the anger in the country, it's not going to augur well for the entire nation.
Let's take a short break and we'll return to this conversation. Stay with us, everyone.
minutes of information.
I, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear Bola Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Every week, Green Angle, in partnership with Wild Age, will bring you a documentary series on environmental issues affecting Nigeria's amazing biodiversity, from climate change, air pollution and wildlife conservation. We will be traveling across Nigeria to give you on-the-ground report of the issues affecting our environment. It airs every Saturday at 4:30 p.m. only on TVC News.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the...
Ahmed Tinubu, do solemnly swear.
A nationwide protest is due in less than 12 hours, and some concerned Nigerians are talking about economic situation, the cost of living, which is on the high side. But government is appealing to young people to shelve the protest and give it some time to be able to resolve all the challenges. My guest on the program this evening is Murtala Ajaka, the 2023 Kogi State governorship candidate of the Social Democratic Party. Mr. Ajaka, thank you for staying the course on the program. Talk to us about the alternative channels there are for citizens to express their grievances and indeed push for reforms, as you suggested, rather than protests.
Well, the only channels allowed by the Constitution is by way of protest. The Constitution allows for protest, and we cannot take that away from Nigerians. So what is left for government now is for government to guide the protesters so that it will not get out of hand.
Do you think there's a timeline to these patients that you and other stakeholders are talking about? And how do you think this administration can be held accountable for its promises and policies? And also, how do people get it to deliver on its commitment to address some of these challenges?
Well, like the slogans of the administration says, renew hope. Life is all about hope. All right? So let's be hopeful and keep interrogating the policies of the government. That is the duty of we as citizens. But again, we must not fail to let the government know where it's going wrong. Some people, when you call them out, they might feel because you don't like their face. No. It is the duty of the citizen to call the government officials or the head of the government to order where they feel things are not going well. That's the universal norm. So let's continue talking to those in authority to ensure the right things are done. Like this issue of fuel subsidy, it was a consensus agreement on the side of the politicians all the presidential candidates agreed that if they win, they're going to take up subsidy. And in the last year budget, there was no provision for subsidy. Even before the former president left office, there was no provision for subsidy. So it's just that the managers of the oil sector did not guide the new president accordingly. And to me, they are the cause of this problem that we're in now. Because if Mr. President was properly briefed as president-elect by the managers of the oil sector, there would have been a way out before we go into a full-blown subsidy removal. But the president was not well guided. And because everybody was in the spirit that, okay, subsidy should go, the subsidy is gone now, and we all across the country now we are suffering for it. But it's not too late to make amendment.
You
what are we supposed to do now?
Trust,
most of this
Mr.
money
Ajaka,
are going to the states.
Yes.
Yeah.
You seem to have expressed some trust in President Tinubu's capacity to deliver. Talk to us about specific,
I have no doubt about that.
Specific actions or policies that you are counting on that will address, for instance, the high cost of living and the other challenges Nigerians are complaining about.
One, the issue of the Education Trust Fund, if properly utilized, because 80% of Nigerian school students are finding it difficult to take care of their tuition fees. 80%, more than 80%. If the managers of the Education Trust Fund manage it accordingly, it will go a long way in alleviating the problems of Nigeria. Like the issue of the PMS we are having today, the problem of PMS we are having in the country today. The federal government should look deeply. Thank God, Alhaji Aliko Dangote has been able to give us a refinery. The federal government must support this man with all they have to ensure that that refinery works. So that the pressure on the Naira can be curtailed. Because it doesn't make economic sense. You take a crude to somewhere in Europe, you come back with a refined product, Nigeria. Meanwhile, we have a refinery here now. So federal government should encourage the NNPC as a matter of urgency to deal with Dangote refinery in a way of giving it locally quota of the product of crude for the refineries in the country. It should be given to Dangote so that they can refine this crude here in the country. If that is done, we will be able to reduce the pressure on the Naira. And if we're able to stabilize the Naira as it stands now, because today Naira is over 1,600 to $1. If we're able to bring it back to say 1,000 or 900, this issue of food price, this thing that we are suffering in the country will go down. Our major problem now is the Naira that is depreciating every second, every hour. And we must do whatever we can to arrest that. Once the president is able to take care of that, any other problem will go down.
So a few days ago, the FEC adopted a proposal by Mr. President to sell crude to Dangote and other upcoming refineries in Naira. We're going to see how that play out in the coming days. But you have also suggested reshuffling.
Yes, you the pressmen must follow it, make sure the directive of the Mr. President carried out, because I don't trust those people in NNPC. That's the truth.
You also talked about Mr. President reshuffling his cabinet in the near future. Are you stylishly saying that some ministers are not performing optimally under this administration?
I've already made my statement. I have a lot of friends and associates that are in the government. You know,
so you don't want to offend them?
I'm not happy with that, my statement, but it's a fact. But I don't want to offend anybody. There are a lot of ministers that are not. Now, Mr. President should look into it. It's not about political settlement. Let's get the right people. Because if things go wrong, it is Mr. President's name that will be in the news, not his appointees. So let's look at those that are capable. It doesn't matter if you are his friend or political associate. Let's get people that are capable to get the job done.
So
because from what I've seen, most of the ministers, I don't think.
The last time I checked, Mr. Ajaka, you were with the SDP, but prior to this time, I think you were Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the APC, right? How well do you think your former party is doing handling this situation, engaging stakeholders and indeed the Nigerian public as to the hope they promised, pre-election?
Well, I'm in touch with the leadership of the APC and some senior member of this government, because whatever it is, we have an elected president. Irrespective of our local political disagreement we're having, we must make sure Mr. President succeed. Because if we succeed, Nigerians have succeeded.
Do you think they know exactly what is happening, especially where the shoe pinches the average Nigerian? One of them was on national TV the other day saying he doesn't believe in the MBS statistics that quoted that food inflation has risen over 40%. Do you think that the leadership, the top echelon of leadership under this administration really appreciates the current circumstances that many Nigerians are going through?
You see, whatever comes out of the NBS, we should all believe it, because it's a government institution saddled with such responsibility. I believe them 100%. It's left for we now, as a political actors, to see how we can prefer solution. In fact, the leadership of the NBS, these are the kind of people who want to head government position. They have let it bare. And as a government now, we should find a way now to see how we can prefer solution. And one of the major problems that led to this food inflation is a hike in PMS price. And how do we solve it? Thank God now we have a refinery in Lagos by Dangote. Federal government should encourage Dangote to ensure we have fuel, PMS, and HU across the country. That will reduce our problem. And again, I can see the federal government is doing this gas CNG
initiative
project. The state should key into it to ensure there's gas across the country for all CNG motors to have access to.
Well, that's our time, Mr. Ajaka. We have to go now. A big thank you. Thank you for talking to us on these issues, and we're looking forward to see how government implements its policies and also fulfill its promises for the Nigerian people in the coming days, especially
if you can hear me well, Mr. Nifem, tomorrow the police should be very careful in dealing with Nigerians that are going to protest, because if we have problem tomorrow, the police will be held accountable. They should be civil in their relationship with the protesters. That is my position.
Absolutely. And we're counting on that. Murtala Ajaka is 2023 governorship candidate of the SDP in Kogi State. Thank you so much for talking to us on the program this evening. That's our show today, everyone. If you missed any part of it, you can watch it again at midnight and at 6 a.m. tomorrow. From all of us here at TVC News, thank you for watching. I am Nifemi Okuntoye. See you again tomorrow.